Now, Zimbabwe Army Commander, Brigadier General Sanyatwe, and the Zimbabwe Minister of Defense, Ophah Muchinguri, in hot soup. What is happening? Now, with Zimbabwe's imponderable politics and the capricious socio-economic state of things, anything is possible. Now, this guy once served under the presidential guard, right? And he's the current, I'm talking of the current Zimbabwe National Army commander, right? So we don't expect such people to get in hot soup. We just don't expect. So what happened here? Now, Echtungu is a man who was shot in 2019, is getting $30,000 in compensation for being shot, right? I'm going to dive into the details of what is happening here. Remember, some people lost their lives. Now, why this particular person only, right, is something brewing here. So, taking you back into time, this is Sanyatwe when he's still with the presidential guard, right? Remember this.
It's a force that is configured by the subnational job for the purposes of carrying out instructions from the national job. And the National Reaction Force comprise elements from ZRP and a particular support unit. Members of the Defense Forces, the Army, and the Air Force of Zimbabwe. Not forgetting the element from the President Department, CIO.
All right. This is Anselm Sanyatwe speaking at the Commission of Inquiry that followed the 1 August post-election incident that happened, of course, on 1 August. Remember, an actual Commission of Inquiry took place. Why did it have to take place in Zimbabwe? As in, we're having Zimbabwe inquiring itself. Of course, we're having other people from the region of Africa. So this story got the traction of the international community, right? So this guy was holding a very, very powerful position. He still does, right? He was heading the reaction force, right, which comprises of ZRP, support unit, defense force, the army and the air force, and the presidential security, the CIO, Central Intelligence Organization, right? Now, on the case of this victim who is claiming compensation, what has happened? We're going to go to it, and I'm just going to quote an article on this directly. Now, Echtungu is a man, Felix Mafondokoto, who was shot in the backside, has since been awarded US $29,182 compensation following a successful lawsuit against the Defense Ministry after having been caught up in the army crackdown. Right? Mafundo Kondo, who was being presented by the Zimbabwe Lawyers for Human Rights, cited the defense minister and army commander as respondents. He filed the summons on November 3, 2020, claiming US 49,182 compensation from the defendants, broken down as 17,000 for pain and suffering, nervous shock and trauma 17,000, medical expenses US 3,182, and 12,000 for loss of earnings. He also demanded payment of interests and costs of suit. According to the court papers, on January 15, 2019, Mafundo Kondo was accompanying his friend when 6 soldiers disembarked from their vehicle and indiscriminately attacked civilians while firing guns. One of the soldiers poked Mafundo Kondo with his rifle and it accidentally went off, shooting him right on the backside, and he fell in a ditch, bleeding heavily. Passerby came to his rescue and he was ferried to St. Mary's Clinic. The court heard that soldiers attempted to take him from the clinic but were blocked by a crowd of Chitungwiza residents. He was transferred to Chitungwiza Hospital and later to Belvedere Medical Hospital. In his Army Defense, Army Chief Operations Officer Colonel Watmo Ziweni claimed that soldiers were not deployed on the day in question. However, the court found that Mafundo Kondo was shot by a member of the Zimbabwe National Army. The shooter was identified by military uniform and was holding an AK-47 rifle. These descriptions are synonymous with a soldier of the Zimbabwe National Army. Harare Magistrate Mbonisi Ndlovu ruled, "It can't be that an ordinary citizen would clad himself in military uniform and walk in broad daylight brandishing an AK-47. The shooting, if anything, was an act of accidental discharge of a firearm. The soldier surely did not mean to shoot the unarmed civilian, but it was accidental. Be that as it may, the defendants are vicariously liable for negligent conduct of their officer." The magistrate added, "It is not so bound in the case where evidence is available to the plaintiff which he has not produced. In those circumstances, the court is justified in giving and does give absolution from the instance. But where the best evidence available has been produced, though it is not entirely of a conclusive character and does not permit of a mathematical calculation of the damages suffered, still it is the best evidence available. The court must use it and arrive at a conclusion based upon it." The court ruled that the man suffered permanent injuries. The plaintiff still has pain to this day because not all bullet fragments were successfully removed. He said, "There's no doubt that the plaintiff suffered severe injuries and he underwent much pain and suffering. The plaintiff now struggles to work for extended periods of time because of the injury, thus impacting his livelihood." Right? So a ruling is made here. Now, what do we need to take note here? Where the incident happened, right? The incident happened in Chitungwiza, right? Maybe on the same day that the 1 August shootings happened. But that is not the case. This guy got shot on January 15, 2019. And this case obviously involves the Zimbabwe Army or members of the Zimbabwean National Army. And the year is 2019. So here we see that there's a judgment So is it or it is not a default judgment?